All right. First of all, when we planned this event and the team came up with the idea, I didn't know we'll have a room full of people in the mid of the week in Bangalore. So thank you, all of you, for making it here, making it worthwhile, all our time from putting this together to doing something of its kind for the very first time. I'm not too familiar with too many events that happen for people who spend a lot of time in the green room. So partly proud, partly excited, partly nervous for putting this together. And again, wouldn't have been possible without our wonderful events team, Diviksha and Ash, along with Swarna, Abhi, and Shirley, and Ashish, Vimal, and team on backstage side. A lot of other people, I can't take everybody's name here, but a lot of countless nights of work together, a lot of anxiety, but I think it has come out very well. So thank you to the team and thank you all of you. All right, we have about half an hour. It can be too less or too much depending on how Casey feels about it.
Now this is okay.
All right. Honestly, I was feeling a bit cold here today, and again, there were days when I used to feel cold on stage because I used to be nervous. Now I think I'm just old.
You should be.
Speaking of old, we won't go there. There are two men on the stage, one with his hair blackened and one with no hair. So we won't go on age today. But what we'll talk about is, Casey, your experience across companies, everywhere from an IBM to an Airtel business to now where you are. How much do events really matter for you? You know, and this is a candid conversation, not scripted in a way where idea is not to please the room, but from your experiences across these companies, because we know what events do. And through the day, starting from Raj's session this morning to a wonderful panel, we saw two things established very well. One takeaway for me was events are core to marketing. It's a center stage, as I put it. It's not an add-on that you slap to a plan. And everybody who's been at events, planned those flagships, curated those roundtables have said it loud and clear. Events are part of the playbook, not a band-aid that you put on later. Secondly, you have to have a system in place to measure ROI. Now, ROI for different people could be different things, could be a pipeline, could be last mile revenue, could be fostering better relationships. But having those two things established, Casey, in your journey of 17, 18, 20 years, how important are events for businesses in general? What have you seen, learned, unlearned? Please share with us.
So 22 years to be very precise. I think the whole events thing has evolved, right? And the panel, each one of the panelists, talked about it, right? But where I'm standing today and when I'm seeing things slightly differently, I think this is the most powerful tool we have as a marketer. Now, people can come and say that, no, it doesn't work, we can't measure it. I think at the end of the day, it's about how you're going about it, right? So one, I think event is sitting right at the core of your integrated marketing plan and strategy. You can't do without it, especially if you're in B2B, right? Now, how you go about it has evolved over a period of and especially in last, pre-COVID and post-COVID, a lot of things have changed, right? But so earlier we used to do, because suddenly your business comes in and said that, you know what, this looks like a great event and I want to meet these customers, and I'm hearing, or rather, earlier it used to be that this customer has proposed that, we should be there. So it used to come to, that was my IBM days, and I could see some of the IBMers sitting here. And we used to just go because sales leader had said, just go and do it. Today, and over a period of time, all of us have learned to say no, and when to say it, right? Because when I'm again going to go back to the integrated plan. There is no standalone events even when you're doing a very specific targeted workshop, that also falls in the event category, by the way, or a small round table. All of that has to be part of your integrated plan because everything starts from what business is expecting to do, right? Every conversation starts there. And ultimately, which defines the kind of outcome marketing has to drive. And, I think gone are those days when, okay, this is what digital is bringing, this is what events is bringing, and this is what, something else is bringing. I mean, it doesn't work. It's a complete hybrid kind of a scenario we're in. You can't say that, and nowadays it's all about attribution. Last touch attribution is going to be the, game changer. And God forbid if it, Rajendran had showed it, right? The digital team won it, wherein the entire work was done by the events team, right? So I think, and that's why I said integrated plan. Digital does certain things which events can't, but events does a lot of things which digital can't, right? The way you leverage it, the way you build the whole plan and go about doing it is what's going to, bring your outcome. I was just hearing pipeline, right? And I asked that question. What will you do with the pipeline if it is not going to convert? And it is not a single day game. You're in a long haul. An event is not good. I mean, it's not in 2 minutes Maggi noodles which you're making, right? So I think everything starts with that outcome, which is the business outcome, and then you go about building your whole plan. And yes, this is where through an industry format is going to bring me those customers or those CXOs, which, let's be honest about it, my sales organization doesn't even have a, connect. How do you get it? How will you bring them to a one-to-few unless you go to one of the media houses and get them, right? And that's where you leverage the industry events. And then you zeroed it down to a smaller one-on-ones, and then you actually put the ABM layer on top of it, which keeps on nurturing. So I'm saying, short answer is, Praval, it is sitting right at the core of it. But my only learning has been, and the unlearning and learning is that it is not a standalone activity which we do.
Okay, so we're establishing how you look at events and the ROI from events. I'll stay with you on that for a second. You look at event as a strategic asset. That's good to hear, good to know, that's your thought process, what you believe in, how events is. Let's talk a little more tactical for a bit. Where do events sit in your marketing metrics, right? How do you, when you look at, let's say, budget allocation or any kind of planning that you do, right? Where does it sit on that dashboard for you?
So I can give you an example of my previous organization. When I started that role, events was almost 80% of my budgets because, outside connectivity, we were hardly selling anything. The whole agenda was that how do we build the adjacencies for Airtel business, and then how do we really make sure that we start selling those things, right? And the only way, and I didn't have a digital channel which was like super integrated. So the only way I could go about doing it is, and also because I was catering to 5 different segments: government, SMB, mid-market, enterprise, and then there was this whole global business which is out there. Now, the whole game was, we started at 80%, and over a period of time, when I exited, we were sitting at 40% investment on events. It was required because SMB, where we saw that we were heavy on digital, but gradually we realized that, we need to bring that entire integrated story of digital and events together. That just changed the game for us. So the same amount of budget which we were spending on SMB, only on digital, we changed that to a mix over a period of time of maybe 60-40, 60 digital, 40% event. My ROI has literally, gone 2x. right? So I'm saying it also depends on at what stage of the journey you're in and the kind of organization you're working for.
Okay, beyond the dashboard, beyond the metrics, beyond event as an asset or a strategic asset for marketing as a whole, here's a bit of a personal question. You've been in the industry, done events, you are a propellant for event as a part of the strategy, part of the mix. How has events as a channel, as a medium, transformed you as a person? You know, what is it that you've learned? Everything from being in the green room to being on the stage, right? There's a journey. All of us have been through these. How has it transformed you as a person? You know, there's a personal side of it as well that doesn't get talked about as much. But I mean, honestly, I've had a lot to learn, you know, before being confident about events as a channel, as a medium. Also, being on stage, talking about why events matter, for that matter. What's your takeaway in all these years, over 2 decades? What do you attribute to events as such?
A lot, actually, a hell lot. I'm a better marketer because I've spent a lot of time doing, first of all, you know, at the initial stage, you know, stages of my career, just going and, you know, taking the non-assembled PCs, you know, assembling it in Ansal Plaza in Delhi, and then putting the kiosk, and from there to then executing smaller events, and then, you know, start. I mean, that's the journey, right? But what, and why I will say that, you know, this has the biggest impact, because it just made me a better marketer. The simple reason is as a marketer, I made sure that I go and talk to the you know, people who are in the room. I make sure that when I'm in an event, or when I'm doing it, or I'm executing it, I always try to be true to what was the core objective of doing that. If it's a funnel or it's a revenue, then post-event, I never really waited for the sales to come to me or somebody else come to me. I was after people's life. And there are people, again, like I said, a couple of people and guys sitting from IBM days, they have seen me in action, right? And I think my job is not to just go and execute an event. My job is to make sure that I live the whole life cycle of that event, and I make sure that comes in. Now, it gave me a sense of ownership, and that is something which defines me as a person today. It gave me, you know, that confidence of, you know, that I understand my customer. So when when I'm sitting with, and this is 10 years back, even at that point in time when I'm sitting in a room with the business leaders, I have a point of view. Because, by the way, I have spoken to more customers than some of the people who are sitting there. Not that, you know, I know more, but at least I have those conversations. So I know what is required and what is not. And before saying no, you have all of it with you, because, you know, you've been through all that shit already, right? You just can't just say because you didn't like somebody and no, this won't work, and you say, isme maza nahi aayega. It doesn't work like that, right? But all of these experience, I think, made me at least, yeah, what I am today.
Of all these events that you were at, either running them, curating them, being on a panel, whatever, is something that you recall that really changed your perception about business in some way? I'll give an example, Asel. So we at Zoho run a flagship event of ours called Zoholics. It's our annual user conference, happens in about 25, 30 countries, either every year or in certain countries, alternate years or so. Been doing it for quite some time now. We've been doing it in India as well. Back in the day, the concept of the event, at least internally with the stakeholders, was, oh, it's a cost center. So every time the question comes where you're tightening screws here and there, oh, do we have to do Zoholics this year? That conversation doesn't happen for the last 3 or 4 years. And again, kudos to the team here that also works on that event. And our analytics team, internal analytics team, where we put in a system in place, everything from our CRM to our accounting, to our analytics tool, it started showing the value of that event because it's very straightforward if you look at it. It's a customer event. About 87% people who come to that event are existing customers. Zoho has a lot to offer, as you could see in Raj's session early morning. Idea was if someone is already a customer, how can she leverage or get introduced to something else that we have? Everybody knows Zoho has a CRM, Zoho has an email software, Zoho has an accounting software. How many people already knew Zoho has an event management software end-to-end that beautifully plugs into your CRM? I'm sure most of you did not know until you got here. Zoholic serves this purpose. It educates people on what else they can leverage from their subscription and what else they can, or as our sales team will say, you could upsell and cross-sell to them. And we built a dashboard, we got that system in place. Zoholics is no more a cost center, we know that. We make more than what we invest into getting Zoholics, but money aside, it's a wonderful experience for customers to know who we are. They get to meet the product managers behind the products that they use every day. So there's a relationship aspect as well, but even on the ROI, quote unquote ROI piece, that metric actually.
Yeah, because you're actually having so much of upsell and cross-sell happening.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Right. So our point is, there's a lot of perception that changes by doing it. I want to hear from you, from your experiences of events. What is one thing that you remember that really changed the way you thought about business?
I think I actually touched upon this one point in my previous answer as well, that start understanding the customer and not just staying with the customer. You start understanding which kind of accounts make sense for your, the product or the service or the solution you're selling, right? And over a period of time, what you figure out that, in the planning stage, when you're looking at the target account list, you can actually very clearly call out that, this account is not going to buy from us. And that's something which I realized, and this was back in 2012 when I joined IBM back. And there's this, and this was 2012, I don't remember the partner with whom we were doing it. So the problem statement then was that I was part of the services marketing, and the problem statement was that we had a couple of services offering where we had the least, the pipeline was red. And by the way, one of our competitor was actually going all out and, doing a great job. And we said that it's not working out. And that was the problem statement. Event was not the core, but yeah, that was the problem statement. Then we said, okay, fine. What are the kind of customers who have bought from the competition? And that's something which I sat down and did with the sales team and the ops team. And then we said, okay, what kind of lookalike customers do we have in IBM already? Because IBM had 5 different views, right? One or the other are already IBM customer, right? Taking the leap from there, and then I started, we started just going, deep into targeting and who's the right persona, who's the right buying group, who's the right persona, and then make sure we build this whole experiential event. And I'm talking about 2012, and this was somewhere outside Manisa. We flew down some 60, at that point, some 65 odd CIOs, very targeted. It was a 1.5-day thing. We made sure that we had, created this whole experience. The moment they received the personalized note from the business head, which was the mini CEO kind of a person, from there till the time they landed at the event, for those 1.5 days, and then the kind of work we did during those 1.5 days. And by the time we ended it, and then we followed it up, that one event at that time generated a pipeline of $10 million, because it's a services business, large business, right? That one experiment, it was the experiment, right? Because I don't think I have seen anybody doing that. And it was, some ideas came from partner, some was mine, some was the sales team. But what I'm trying to say is that that is when I realized the power of what I have accumulated over a period of time of doing these events, that I was just going about, okay, one is done, go to next, done, go to third, done, go to fourth. I was not really taking a step back and say that, okay, you know what? Either I go and keep doing this, create this volume game that I have done 10 events in the quarter, right? Or I say that, you know what, in the entire quarter, I'm just going to do 3. And 3 events means that because of the whole plan which we have, but those 3 I'm going to do in a way which will have a very clear impact, right? So this is the time when it just clicked me that, you know what, I need to move away from this whole, I need to break that rut. Nobody else is going to come and break this, right? We will always be inundated with, okay, you know what, we have so many events and we have built so much of pipeline. Believe you me, I have seen teams, people, individuals going from, doing 10 events, and at the end of the day, when you look back, you hardly have anything, right? So I think that was a big game changer for me personally, because I just realized that I'm not even thinking of doing something new. I'm not even experimenting because I never had time. I'm just moving from one to the other. So I made sure that I start taking those, take a pause, take a step back, and try to look different, look at things differently. I think that has changed then for me personally. And that was the big change, game changer for me personally.
Interesting. When you got here, we were having this conversation, and you had some questions about tools and integrations, etc. I had to pull somebody from the product team and got you the answer. But that actually made me wonder, event tech in general, back in the day, before I joined Zoho, and I'm talking about maybe 16, 17 years ago, probably more, we used to do events for some of the brands like Samsung, etc. And back in the day, if setting an event was putting up a website, which will be hosted somewhere, either a CMS or a flat file or something else, and then you'll be using some other tool to send emails, something else for SMS or whatever. That's how it was. From between then and now, a lot has changed. Event tech, the word did not exist. The phrase did not exist back then. We've come a long way, and as a technology company, we take a lot of pride in building products proudly homegrown from India for the world. Backstage is one of them. We have 50 plus other products. Having built this from the ground up, working with stakeholders internally, people like Diviksha and Ash and others, and externally, people like all of you, there's a lot of insight that goes back to the product team, and that's the reason, by the way, our product team is also at this event. Our product head, engineering head, our solutions team, they're all here, and they're not here to sell. They're here to learn, because that goes back into the product. Okay, and that's a very important point I'm making for Zoho, not for Backstage. At events that we are at, our product and engineering teams are there to listen to customers, listen to what is it that is missing. Coming back to the question, how much do you think is the value of having a tighter integration between event tech tools and something like a CRM? Could be any CRM for that matter. Where do you put that in the value metrics?
Oh, right up there. Absolutely.
And what do you think, why do you think a lot of people are still not leveraging that value?
See, there is a very simple and straightforward reason why people are not able to leverage it. The problem is in the way we are looking at it. A tool is not going to solve our problem. When you get a tool, the problem is that we feel that the moment you take a subscription or you buy a tool, now it'll just work magically and it's going to just take the problems away. It doesn't work like that, right? So as a marketer, or all the event marketers, or anybody who's responsible for that, right? You need to go deep, right? You already know the whole journey, step by step, right? Today, it is so important, and somebody asked that question of how to capture every conversation, on a booth, right? The only way to do it is you actually put a list, there are tools like, tools which just listens, AI, enabled listening tools which you just put and it just start capturing, and then you parallelly you have this tool. And see, there are multiple things. You just, it is today anything and everything is possible. But having said that, the integration, first we need to understand the whole journey. Then we have to make sure whatever tools we have, they need to be integrated. If they're not integrated, if it is not integrated to your CRM, you'll end up doing the same manual work which I have been doing for the longest time, right? It has helped me, but it is not going to help us going forward. One of the examples, and I'm not saying it because I'm sitting on the stage, but in my last organization, we were just having a chat, right? And I told you because I think we were getting into that year. So there's this India Mobile Congress where Airtel used to be, foundation partner, and my team used to lead the whole thing for Airtel. We did that for 5 years. The biggest challenge was, apart from what the problem the gentleman said, was really how to capture everything and then make sure that it's automated, right? Because we used to do this B2B day out of those 5 days of India Mobile Congress, wherein we used to fly down some 200 odd CXOs across the country, and then all of that used to happen, right? And that's when we were talking, and I think the Pach Pandavs was sitting, and I think I had this chat with you, and you said that backstage hai, dekh le ek baar. And I said, fine. Immediately I got someone from my team to quickly, couple of people who evaluated them, this tool of yours. And actually, at that point in time, it was doing 70% of my work. That is still, the problem was not, again, the challenge which we figured out was that the integration needs to happen. The moment we integrate it, that's when it will be almost 100% working. But for that 70%, we immediately took the licenses, and then we said, okay, you know what, let's test it out. Now, people can come and say that, no, you know what, we don't have budgets. I mean, guys, the fact of the matter is, if you want to do great things, you need to be very, very agile in your thinking and thinking about experimenting fast, failing fast, learning fast, and move on. That's what we did. Today, till date, I think, and because I was invited here, I actually checked with my old team that how is it working. It's absolutely, the team has already implemented it in the SMB. There is an SMB part of the business where it is implemented, which behaves, works, thinks very different from the enterprise side of the whole game, right? But then the team figured out how it will work for my SMB side of the game and the enterprise side of them, because the CRMs are different. So yes, it is super important, it is super critical, but tools are not just going to work because you have bought something. We need to roll up our sleeves and sit down and understand how it will work, and then make sure that it starts working for us.
All right. Process before the tools, always, yes. Thanks for sharing that, Casey. And I remember Casey was at Airtel Business. We were hanging out with some friends, and this conversation came up, and I had suggested check out Backstage, and eventually became a customer. One of those days when I regretted being a marketer, not being a salesperson, didn't get any commission out of that deal. But thank you and the team for sort of making it happen. Very happy to have you guys as customers at Airtel Business. One last question. We have 1 more minute. We can take some questions from the audience. One last question for you, for everybody in the room, my events team, other event folks here, including a lot of senior folks from the events fraternity. One piece of advice for people who are looking at events as a career, whether they are in marketing already or they are not. And Raj mentioned about this early in the session. A lot of people have a passion for events, and that's why they're doing it. Not for the reason because they really enjoy the rush that it gives them, right? People who are on the fence to choose event planning, marketing, strategy as a career, what do you think about that? Who should do it, who should not? Any piece of advice, any wisdom that you want to share with them?
Anybody who wants to take senior roles, you can't do without understanding events. Clear. I was first an event marketer before, that's where my journey started, right, personally. So I think this is super important. right? And but then you know, this is what okay, so let me just share this with you guys. We need to seriously think about that. Event is exciting, Raj said, he also mentioned, flying in, flying out, staying in hotels. Believe you me, till you turn, 30, it is great. After that, your body starts telling you, boss, हिंदी में बोलूं तो हड्डियां आपस में हॉकी खेलने लग जाती हैं, right? So the fact is that it is absolutely super exciting, and if I may use the word, pardon my French, but it looks sexy, it sounds sexy because you're like a cool dude, a cool dude. But then you need to be very clear about what is going to be your journey. Event is an important part, but please don't start looking at that this is end of all. You need to have a larger perspective. How will this fit in? How will this piece, which is called events, fit right at the core of the entire marketing strategy? And for that, you need to think about business. It starts with business, and believe you me, it starts with business. It ends with business. That's it, right? So I think don't do it. I mean, please do it till the time you're 30 because it's cool, it's sexy. But I think it's event marketers are the one who have the biggest chance of becoming CMOs. I can tell you this. Most of the best CMOs, you will find them actually events as being one of the core part of their career. That's a good enough cue for everyone.
All right, thanks, Casey, for bringing events back to the center stage and not as part of something that is done in the sideline. Thank you all of you for spending the day with us. Any questions, if you may have, we can take them. I see a couple of hands there. The lady there had raised the first hand, so can you pass the mic to her? Center.
There is a lady standing with the mic.
Where? Yeah. We'll try to keep it quick and short and fast so that we can cover most questions, but please go ahead. Please introduce yourself and ask the question. Thank you.
Thank you. First of all, thanks a lot for this session. My name is Mayuri, and I'm working as a global events and channel marketing manager for one of the cybersecurity company. When we are talking about events, we participate in a lot of events, whether these are direct participation or with partners. Sometimes people talk a lot that participation with partners get better attribution. It gets better rewards back, but then I do not believe that. I would like to know what's your take on that, because there is no regional specific, contribution that this particular region is very good when it comes to partner specific, participation. That's one question. And the second question is very simple, but I'm currently facing a lot of difficulty, while handling teams. So we have this events kickoff call, which we go through prior to the event with the sales team, and we explain them what kind of participation, what kind of attribution, what kind of returns we are expecting. I do understand industry has specific, calculation. It's 2:1. It's 1:1 when it comes to pipeline to ARR. But then what happens is, I do not believe that is because it is based on the event, it is based on our people, it is based on the kind of attendees we are going to expect over there. Now we fight, we argue a lot. What is your take on to that? It should be as per the industry standards or as per our, our research or our earlier participation.
So my quick answer to the point number 2 is, who is that? Whose industry? Everyone sitting here.
I'm sorry, I didn't get you.
What I'm saying is that what is industry standard? what is the definition of an industry standard? So for example, I have seen in services business, the ROI is of a different kind. In SaaS, it's very different. The moment you move to outside tech B2B, it's very different, right? So there is, I mean, these are just terms which we started using. So the way I see it, I try to keep it simple for myself and for my team. Every dollar I spend, there is an ROI, and the way I measure it is that the minimum 30x is what I get out of every dollar. And that's something which over a period of 22 years, which I've learned, experienced, that is the optimum and the most, that's the best ROI you can actually get. It's a journey again, depending on which category, which segments you are playing in. But I think 1x, 30 to 35x is what is something which we as marketers, we should really target. And that's exactly how I have been going about doing that. You want to answer?
Thanks, Casey. I'll take a stab at the first question quickly. We work with both partners and we do a lot of events. In India alone, between the events we participate, the ones we host, ones we exhibit, all that number is above 300 in a year in India alone, okay? And the 5-people team that's running this show pretty much runs the whole thing, okay, across the country. So a lot of events we go directly, but we also work with MDF where we bring in partners. So one reason of going with partners in certain other countries is where we may not have a strong presence, could be a language barrier, could be a cultural barrier, could be the know of the land. If we don't and the partners do, we work with them. In other cases, it's just humanly impossible for us to be everywhere. So partners work as an extended team of ours and we work with them via MDF. That's how we look at it. But again, I understand different industries and different companies within those industries have different lens with which they look at it. So I hope that answers your question. We'll take some more questions. We'll be around in case you have more questions we can catch offline, but yes. I can hear you, yeah.
Hi. So I just wanted to ask you, Kaustubh, you spoke about that you revisited the learnings and how you cut down the number of events and take a step back and look at it. Just from your experience, something that did not work and you decided to really kill it from your strategy. Yeah.
A hell lot of things didn't work, to be honest with you. And that's a great question. Thanks for asking that. These, the industry events, not all, right? This absolutely blinded way of going out and just keep, going after sponsoring. We just feel that, oh, this might be good, right? I think there was a time when, I can go back 10 years. There is a particular way in which I have personally figured out for myself and the organization I work for is that identifying what kind of industry events will work for that particular company where I'm working for, right? So one is that. And second is very clearly something which didn't work out was that, once we felt that we will just go and because small roundtables has, just popped up and we felt that, we can just start top of the funnel also, that's something which is going to work. It doesn't work. 1 to few is something where you have to have some some already conversation, good conversation, or at least the customer you're known to, right? So I think some of those tweaks, I would say, I have personally kept on learning from and kept on changing. But formats remain really the same, right? It's just that how you go about doing those, what do you do in those sessions is what makes a difference, right? So instead of, one is taking the presentation format completely out. None of my events, wherever I work, I make sure that 0 presentations are there. It has to be interactive. It can't be, nobody cares what you want to present and what you are selling. Those people are there because they have a problem. Those people are there in the room because they want to share. First, they want somebody to hear them. That, I have these problems. how are you solving it, or somebody else in their peers are solving it, right? So I think that is what end up creating that kind of scenario where people are open to share. And the moment your customer, the attendee, the CXO sitting in the round table start talking openly or talking freely, you know that, you know what, he started trusting you, and that's your cue to make sure that you start, and you don't need to solve it there in that round table. No, please don't try to do that, right? But that's how you learn, and then you keep course correcting. It's not like you just change it, no, this didn't work, I will stop doing it. It's a course correction. It's not cut it out completely and then you think about anything. It's a course correction.
All right. Do we have the permission for one last question?
Yeah, there was a lady who had a mic and,
Yes, please.
took the mic.
Hey, hi Kaustubh, hi Praval. Really nice session, and my name is Ankita. I lead events for Lead Squared, and I head events marketing for the US region. One question I have is, it's a situation, and we are kind of expanding in the US market. We are new to the region. We are trying to do smaller curated events, and which are probably a series of series of events that we have, right, in a span of like 2 months each. As a marketing leader, I want to understand from both of you that how would you evaluate or maybe measure the first series of event that we did, right? Because by the time actual ROI comes in from the first event that we did, it would be what, 8 to 10 months down the line, right? But I have to do a chapter 2 of the series 2 months down the line. So as a manager, what matrix do you measure for the first series that we did?
So if I would have been your manager, I would see how many foot in the door happened or how many doors got opened, not closures. You can't do that, right? And how much more do we know about those customers? In those first leg of your entire roadshow, that's how I will measure you. I will not measure you, okay, how much of funnel, suddenly an opportunity got created, right? Because it doesn't work like that. So, but then by the time you're in the second leg, then I'm going to come and ask you how many of those conversations have converted into an opportunity. Because by the time you're in the second one, you have enough and more time to nurture those conversations which has happened or where you open the doors of conversation. And by then they would have been already, some of them would have matured, right? So that's how I would look at this whole experiment.
Yeah, I'll have a short response to it because how I would look at it, when you're doing it the first time, a lot of it is compounded learning of the team curating the event, what you have learned over the years in your current company, previous company, wherever you were. That is why you are, first of all, empowered to do this to begin with, right? So there is some learning and some trust that we are delegating on you if you are on my team. The first event, I would say a lot of what goes into it is gut feeling. Let's not go too far. In this room, we're doing this event for the very first time with all of you, okay? And there are product teams from Zoho, engineering teams, sales team, solutions team, our events team running the show. If nothing else, we go back having learned something, okay? I mean, sales team is going to be happy here, hearing through that, but that is a result that anyway happens. When people see the value in the product and offering, you will have conversations beyond this room as well, right? But why we did it? Based on certain learning from the past, okay? And this whole idea that a belief around this, and like I said, gut feeling. So first time is always that, I would say for us, at least at Zoho. The follow-up events, then everything else start to matter, which we spoke about all through this evening, if that answers your question.
And by the way, I will call Sridhar and tell him to go slightly light on this one.
Thank you so much.
All right. Do we have time for more or we should wrap it up? Okay, perfect. I have a nod from the man there.
Bas karo. Enough.
All right. Thank you for being a lovely audience and coming to the first edition of this show. We hope we'll come back with a bigger event, more of you, more conversations, and some shared learnings going forward. Thank you once again. I'll pass it on back to Ashish. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
And thank you, Casey, for joining.